Today, we've got one of those stories that mixes economics, politics, and a whole lot of kitchen table reality. President Trump has promised a $2,000 tariff dividend, real cash in the pockets of most Americans, possibly hitting before the 2026 midterms. And if you're thinking, well, that sure would help with some gas and groceries and the electric bill, you're not alone. A lot of Americans, he has their attention. Typical Trump fashion. He throws something out there to see if it's going to stick. And he's serious. He believes with all the billions and billions of dollars of tariffs that other countries are paying now, that you and I should get our fair share. But the big question today is America really ready for those checks? And maybe even more importantly, and actually more importantly, is Congress ready to sign off on them? Because that seems to be the sticking point. Turns out some Republicans, not the Democrats, Republicans are raising some red flags. So let's break it down for you. Here's the headline. President Trump says he wants to send $2,000 per person, low, middle, and moderate income Americans, funded not by taxes, but by his tariffs. We're going to be doing a dividend to the people, he said, of at least $2,000. Now listen, the idea of a tariff dividend is politically powerful. Trump's looking at inflation. He's looking at cost of living pain, and he's trying to give voters something tangible, something that they actually feel. And for millions of families, $2,000 matters. That's rent. That's groceries, Christmas money, paying off those credit cards from Christmas, car repairs. I mean, real life stuff. But on Capitol Hill, it's a different reaction. This isn't Democrats slamming Trump. This is Republicans saying, hold on, wait a minute. How are we paying for this? And let's start with Senator Tom Tillis in North Carolina, who will be leaving the Senate next election. Remember, he supported tariffs, but he's scratching his head now. I thought we were using the tariffs to retire debt, he said. And he makes a good point. This seems counter to that original sell job. And he's not wrong. The national debt just crossed what, $37 trillion? We're at historic highs, the kind of numbers that keep economists awake at night and should keep you and me awake as well. Then you've got Blake Moore from Utah on the Budget Committee. He says we should be using this money to pay down deficits. And Jody Arrington, the budget chairman from Texas, very fiscally conservative. Paying down the debt is the real dividend, he argues. Lower debt equals lower interest rates equals lower inflation. So you seeing the pattern here? Republicans aren't opposed to helping families, but they're worried that we're replaying the Biden-era stimulus mistakes. And that's the other half of the GOP argument, inflation. We all remember how Biden's trillions of dollars in COVID-era stimulus overheated the economy. These new checks, they'll pump hundreds of billions of dollars into the system again. Economists say that it could cost up to $600 billion, roughly double what tariffs are expected to generate. That's a big gap, folks. Regardless of how great it sounds, can we actually afford it? That's a Congress is absolutely going to approve this gap. I don't know about that. Even the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is trying to downplay this, telling people to save the money, to save the tariffs, and to pay down debt instead of spending it. Now, listen, I love the idea of investment accounts for kids. That's in Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Babies born between 2025 and 2028 get $1,000 in a government-seeded account. Parents can contribute more. But let's be honest, most families aren't saving a $2,000 check. They're using it to survive. Some Republicans are making another argument. If we're going to use tariff money for big-ticket spending, why not tackle health care? Obamacare tax credits expire December 31st. Premiums are going to spike next year, most likely. Republicans have proposals to lower costs through HSAs, reinsurance pools, free market reforms. Senator Roger Marshall, a doctor from Kansas, says he'd rather see tariff money go towards lowering health care prices than a one-time stimulus check. That's a very practical argument and a traditional Republican one. So here's where we get into the mechanics. President Trump can impose tariffs on his own. That's executive power. But cutting checks to Americans, that's going to require a congressional approval, a stamp from the U.S. Congress. Democrat Ron Wyden says the administration's explanations are all over the map. Republicans in both chambers are signaling they're not ready to rubber stamp this. Some like the idea, some hate the idea. Most want details. And frankly, President Trump wants this done before the 2026 midterms, which means the clock is already ticking. Now, let's talk politics because this matters. Trump knows the economy is the number one issue for voters over 50. He knows inflation and housing costs are crushing families. He knows younger voters are drowning in debt and older voters are watching their savings disappear into higher pricing. So a $2,000 check right before the midterms, that would move the needle. But if Republicans block it, well, then you're going to have a political divide inside the GOP right as President Trump is trying to rally the country behind his economic plan. This is one of those moments where policy and politics is on a head-on collision path. So the question is, are Americans ready for a $2,000 tariff dividend? The real question is Congress ready? And even more, is this fiscally responsible at a time when the national debt is exploding? We're going to keep watching this. Right now, Republicans are split. Trump is pushing. Millions of Americans are wondering whether that check is ever going to arrive. What about you? Would you rather have the check or would you rather pay down the debt? Text me. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Be sure and hit that subscribe button, like, and comment. See you next time.